How to study vocabulary and why to study vocabulary. I remember in many of my earlier videos, I have very clearly explained. I have spent enough quality time discussing the importance of vocabulary and how and why to study vocabulary. But this video, I'm not going to elaborate the things again because I've already made it before. However, I'll very precisely bring to you notice how and why to study vocabulary. First, I'll tell you why to study vocabulary. Usually in communicative English, when we communicate in English to one another, we don't intend to use hi-fi vocabulary. At the end of the day, communication is not to impress someone with your high standard of vocabulary, which is not fetching, because what you talk should be able to, whatever you talk, people should be able to understand it. So communication is not about grammar. Communication is about your idea, whether it is reaching the client or not. So when we communicate in English, vocabulary is not so important. However, when you're preparing for competitive examinations like Staff Selection Commission, especially in the recent notifications like SSC, CGL, CHSL, MTS kind of exams, vocabulary has a good weightage. So avoid, you can't ignore vocabulary. I have seen many students who do not study vocabulary and I ask them why. And they commonly come with an excuse saying that, Sham sir, how many words we study in vocabulary, what is the guarantee that only these words come in the exam? I completely agree to this argument, because the problem with vocabulary is there is no syllabus, or there is a huge syllabus. No one is an expert in vocabulary. But if this excuse is okay, what about the score? You can't completely avoid the vocabulary and unnecessarily lose the mark in the exam. It is true that vocabulary has a huge syllabus, but how to study vocabulary? Please remember 3 points. Number one, have a target. Have a target. By the time I go to my exam, I should study 300 words at least, or I should study 500 words. I'm telling you, not difficult. If you have a target, nothing is difficult. And make sure you have a reasonable target. Don't have an unrealistic target. Don't say 3000 words I'll study. No, impossible. You can't. So have a minimum reasonable, realistic target, like I should have 300, 400 or max 5, 600 words by the time I go to my exam, number one. Number two, don't study all the words together. Don't study all the words at once, because you can't remember them. In the long run, divide them into a few parts. Like for example, today you have 40 words or 50 words, and slowly add more and more words to your kitty bank installments, so that when you keep studying the vocabulary slowly, slow and steady wins the race, and you don't even get tired. I've seen some people at a time they take too much of burden and they quit very early. So don't have too much of burden. Make your plan realistic. And most important, tip number three, collect your vocabulary from newspapers. I have seen some students, what they do is they try to get the vocabulary directly from the dictionary, word and the meaning, which is not advisable, because only word and the meaning you try to remember, you can't. If you directly collect the vocabulary from Hindu newspaper or any other English newspaper, you also have the sentence, right? So easily you can remember, because you have the example, ready-made example, and you can copy the same example in your vocabulary book. Most importantly, first of all, have a vocabulary book, right? This is why and how we have to study vocabulary. And a few of my students asked me to spend some enough time on vocabulary, especially for SSC, because from in the month of April we have SSC CHSL exam, followed by SSC CGL, again followed by SSC MTS. So a lot of notifications are also upcoming. So I was asked to spend some time on vocabulary, and I'm going to do it for sure. I have collected 400 vocabulary, and most of these words were the words asked in various competitive exams like SSC before. And what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to teach you all the 400 words at once, which is not good. So I'll divide that 400 vocabulary program into various parts. So I'll make different videos like part 1, part 2 and part 3, so on this program called 400 must study vocabulary for SSC CGL. And very soon, keep tuned to my YouTube channel, so that you will get my 400 must study vocabulary videos, one part after the other. I'm sure this program, these videos on the program called 400 vocabulary is very useful, especially for students who are preparing for Staff Selection Commission exams. I'll see you in the upcoming videos. I wish you a very good luck and keep tuned to the channel to get the vocabulary program. Absolutely important. Must study vocabulary for SSC CGL and other exams as well. All the best.